Hey guys, CSGN back again with another video on Madden 21. This time we're going to be talking about a few teams that I think you should use in your Madden 21 franchise. We have the top 5 teams that I think would make for a good franchise team for it to use. So we're going to get right into this one. Number 1, the Atlanta Falcons. Over the past 2 seasons, the Atlanta Falcons have underachieved with top 10 offenses, and they're coming off back-to-back 7-9 seasons. But last season, Atlanta won 6 of its last 8 games. And they actually looked really good near the end of the season. Their defense sort of showed up. They held their opponents to 22 points or fewer. And that will likely be the key going forward with this team. You have Matt Ryan, who I think is really starting to show some signs of decline. And the Falcons, they went defense in the draft. Instead of drafting a receiver or, a lineman or something like that, they went with A.J. Terrell in the first round and then Marlon Davidson in the second round. I think the fun part about rebuilding this team will eventually be finding that new quarterback. I don't know if you're going to do that in the 2021 draft or the 2022. Maybe try to ride Ryan out for 2 seasons and maybe try to ride him out to one more Super Bowl run. But I think you're going to have to find your next quarterback pretty quickly, actually, mostly for the simple fact that we saw quarterback regression last year in Madden 20, and it was pretty quick. You saw guys regress pretty quick. I think within 2 years, like Matt Ryan was down to low 70s or even in the 60s. So you're gonna have to be quick on finding that quarterback of the future. Either way, though, I think this would be a good team to run with in Madden 21. So number 2. The Chicago Bears. This one, I debated between the Bears and the Lions for a little bit about a team that I wanted to have from the NFC North. I went with the Bears here for the sole fact that they do play outdoors. I know that might sound weird, but I think playing in the dome eventually would get kind of boring. You just sort of static for 8 of your games or just perfect weather. I like the odds or chances of, some rain or some snow, just some things like that. But let's get to the Bears, and the elephant in the room, or bear, is Mitchell Trubisky. The Bears did, in fact, trade for Nick Foles, but honestly, I think that was sort of a way of, maybe nudging Nick Foles, or nudging Trubisky, hey, you got to improve next season, but it's not too serious. I don't think Nick Foles is going to outright beat Mitchell Trubisky for the starting job for this team. I think Trubisky will be your starter, and Trubisky, he's been really bad at times, but I think other times he's looked okay. And I think for Madden 21, it's really going to depend if you're a user that likes to move around with your quarterback a little bit more, if you're a user that does run with your quarterback, because I do think that's part of Trubisky's skill set. Is being on the run and scrambling and things like that. So if you're someone that does that, you might, have some long mileage with Trubisky. But if you're someone that doesn't do that, you're probably going to want to looking at drafting another quarterback going forward. And like the Falcons, who I think their defense is definitely gotten better, and I think they have a pretty good defense down there in Atlanta. I think down in Chicago, the Bears have a really good defense. I think it's the Bears, it's a defense, it's cliche, monsters of the Midway, but they did add in new pass rushing abilities. I think with Khalil Mack already being an X factor, and then having those new ways to control the pass rush, it could be a really fun time with that team. So you may be able to use this team and make a few changes here and there, strengthen a few areas of the team up, maybe at receiver, maybe along the offensive line a little bit, maybe go in and get a linebacker or 2. I actually think they have a pretty decent linebacking core in Chicago, so I don't think there's much you have to do, but I think it all depends if you can run that offense well with Trubisky or not, and that could definitely change the timeline of when you could win with this Bears team. But I think either way, the Bears, I think that could be a really interesting pick for you in Madden 21. Number 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is probably the worst. This might be the worst team we have on here. Just from a pure roster standpoint that's on this list, I think this is a team that is definitely just they're going to struggle to win even, I think, 2 games this year. This could be a really rough year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gardner Minshew Mania, that's a cute meme, but I just don't know if he's going to be a long-term option at quarterback for you. Saxonville, remember that? That's pretty much gone. But I guess the plus side is you do have multiple trade chips on the block for you. You have Yannick Ngakoue and you have Leonard Fournette, 2 guys who in real life have expressed interest in wanting to be traded. So those are 2 guys that you could probably trade, get some decent return, because you're probably not going to want to pay those guys because they don't want to be there. But apart from that, they do have, Clavion Chazon, who they drafted, who will probably be picking up where Yannick Ngakoue left off. Offensively, they do have some decent receivers. You have DJ Chark, you have DD Westbrook, you have Chris Conley, you also have rookie Laviska Shenault. So you're going to be airing out a lot, I think, and a lot of come from behind games. But this team is a full, I think, classic rebuild. You don't really have your quarterback, and you got to really sort of rebuild the identity of this football team moving forward. You do have guys like Miles Jack still there, but you've traded other guys away, like Jalen Ramsey, but you do have picks from that. So the Jaguars will have picks going forward to where they could definitely add more talent to the squad. So number 4, a team that's usually not on these sorts of lists and really haven't been on these sorts of lists really since I think most people watching the video, most of our childhoods or adult lives, the New England Patriots. I think this team was an obvious choice before Cam Newton signed with them. I think even after that, it's still a team that I think could be in for a somewhat lengthy rebuild. I don't know if I want to say lengthy, but I think offensively for sure. Nothing really proven at the receiver position. You have, Julian Edelman. You have a few other guys whose names are completely, I'm just like blanking on right now. N'Keal Harry. Didn't show much last year, but, maybe started to come on a little bit stronger near the end of the season. But at the same time, that offense needs to be sort of rebuilt. You lost some starters on the defensive side, but you still have Stephen Gilmore. I still think I think you still have one of the better secondaries in the entire NFL. They also drafted Kyler Duggar, Josh Uche, and Anthony Jennings. Those are, I think guys who are going to make impacts defensively. I think there's a reason why Belichick picked those guys. And those are good players, possibly, but just not year 1 or year 2. Maybe after they've developed for 2 years and you've sort of maybe upgraded their development traits. Those are guys that can definitely start making impacts in year 2 or 3 for you. But I think you're going to be drafting a quarterback for sure. I don't think Cam Newton is the answer at quarterback. That's just me personally. I think this is going to be a really crazy year because, I think you're going to see a lot of New England Patriots franchises on YouTube. So that's going to be a sort of a weird sight to see because we haven't seen a lot of those before. So yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. So number 4, New England Patriots. And then our last team, I sort of debated this with a lot of teams, honestly. I believe at one point I had the Packers, I had the Redskins. But the last team, number 5 on this list, is the Los Angeles Rams. And I think the Rams, from a draft capital standpoint and sort of that premier talent they used to have, is sort of not in a good position right now. They released Todd Gurley, they released Clay Matthews, they traded Brandon Cooks, they lost Dante Fowler Jr., who they traded for, they lost Corey Littleton, and so I think that defense is going to take a massive step back, and it was already taking steps back, even with Jalen Ramsey, who, you traded for Jalen Ramsey, you traded all those picks for him, you still have to extend his contract. And I think that's sort of an interesting thing that you could walk into here, because if you want to be more shrewd with it, you could probably trade Ramsey that first year for some decent return, and avoid having to extend that contract, or you could follow up more realistically and extend that contract But it's really up to you, I think. So that's, once again, another interesting about this team. It's sort of like up to you how you want to take it. Outside of that, though, you do have Aaron Donald on this team. Once again, another one of those players with the new pass rush moves. Could be a lot of fun to use, is an X factor. So you could break some games open with that, or if you're someone that turns X factors off, you won't be able to sort of abuse those sorts of abilities. So that's really interesting, I think, as well. Then you have Jared Goff. Always have to talk to quarterbacks. That's the most important thing with these teams. Jared Goff could be a viable option. I mean, I believe he's on the books until at least 2025 for you, so I don't think you're going to be getting rid of him anytime soon. And once again, also, he should be a capable enough starter for you, I think, that you don't have to use one of your few 2021 draft picks on a quarterback. I think Madden does do the draft pick somewhat properly. So if they do it realistically, how it is in the NFL right now, how things actually are for them, in 2021, you'll only have a 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th round pick. So you're probably not going to be drafting a quarterback with any of those picks. You're probably going to be going defense and offensive line. This team has enough holes that bring those picks on a quarterback in the middle of the draft. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Things do get better in 2022. Well, where you're only going to be giving up, your 4th and 7th round picks. So I think at that point you should be able to maybe look into drafting a quarterback if you really think that's a need that you need to fill. If you don't think you can win with Jared Goff, but I think you should be able to. I think this team is a long-term rebuild, I think, as well. So I don't know. I think that's somewhat interesting. I think quarterback is just sort of an interesting thing there, unless you can trade Jared Goff to a team that could be quarterback needy, and you just draft this amazing prospect or sign someone like that. I don't know, but I think the Rams are a really interesting team to use. I think that's why they're rounding out the list I came up with. Honorable mentions, I think, if I had any, potentially the Green Bay Packers, probably the Detroit Lions, probably the Washington, whatever their names are going to be, the Dolphins, and maybe even the Houston Texans. I think those are 5 honorable mentions. I'll give you 10 teams I think you can use. And of course the Dolphins, teams like that, the Bengals, who are really bad, but I don't want to go with those obvious teams. Those are real obvious answers. I think these are a little more out there for you guys. So either way, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. A reason I haven't been doing anything, because it's been very hot here in Milwaukee. It's been like 90 some odd degrees for like 4 or 5 days in a row, and it gets really hot in this room. I'm already starting to sweat recording this video, so I'm gonna get out of here, and I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I will see you next time with more content on whatever. So yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked it, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.